through the cloud. Tell you what, I hope it doesn't fall out of the cloud the way the water is at the minute. It's absolutely bucketing here. We're live here. We're on the cloud. I'm just going to double check that this is going out right on the Facebook page, which as usual takes an eternity to load. And I can see Gary Milligan sitting looking back at me. Hello everybody. Today is Friday the 2nd of July. We're still during this COVID thing, but what can you do? This man in front of me here tonight, everybody will know. I'm just going to make sure the volume's up. I'm getting the thumbs up from technical support. It must be working. This man in front of me here has a very unenviable task this evening. He is, of course, shoes to fill after Sunday night with Jerry. I don't know how many of you watched it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I actually watched it back again and enjoyed it more the second time. The number of people that have commented on it all, it's brilliant. I reckon Jerry's probably sitting watching this live thinking, what are these two boys going to say to me now? I can imagine, I can just picture it. Anyhow, usual story everybody, I'm wearing the championship attire. It's all available through Blackwater Graphics. Well, now that we've got the all clear to start, hopefully there'll be a few more people buy some championship attire. Be great to see people wearing it around the paddock on the 1st of August. For those of you who haven't heard, I've just slept the game away there. The 500 Club have announced that they will run their event on the 1st of August at Kirkeston. Entries went online live at about 1:30 on Wednesday. By 12 o'clock today, there was 100 entries, which I believe is full. So that was incredible. I've never seen an entries for a sprint fill like that in my life. It's just unbelievable. I was talking to Richard Young at one point, and the entries are coming in 3 and 4 to the minute, which is just completely unheard of. So congratulations. Thank you everybody for entering so quickly. Fantastic. It's shaping up to be one heck of an event. Really, really looking forward to it. There will be a lot of COVID restrictions in place, unfortunately. I have a lot of information to do. I have championship bulletins to do, and I have emails to send out to all the registered competitors. Please, folks, bear with me. It's been a busy, busy few days in work. It's busy at home. I just need a bit of time to do all the stuff that's required. So, folks, please bear with me. Anyhow, moving on to the main point of things. Tonight's guest, I'm sure you can all see him on the screen. This is one I've been really looking forward to. It's not very often Gary and I go nose to nose as we are at the minute, eye to eye. We usually only see each other through a mirror. Depending on who's in front in the start line dictates what sort of wave the other one gets. Sometimes I give a wave, sometimes Gary gives a wave, sometimes it's 5 fingers, sometimes it's not as many, sometimes it's a thumbs up. Who knows? Just depends on the form. Isn't that really right, Gary?
That's right.
Anyhow, I always give a wee bit of preamble. This is what I'm looking forward to. It's actually what I'm really nervous about. Since I started with Betsy, 9 years ago, Gary? 10 years ago?
Thereabouts, yeah.
This man in front of you now, Gary, has been my closest rival on the track. There's been days where we've been split by tenths of a second. There's events where Gary has dominated and I have been completely can't touch him. There's been days where it's been vice versa. The first year I won my championship, Gary, this man here, who was my biggest opposition all year, was the first man to come and congratulate me. When I have an issue, Gary has fixed it. When Gary's had a problem or two, I've tried to fix it, but all I've ended up doing is handing him tools. I'm mechanically illiterate. My closest rival on the track, and I just can't wait to do this interview. So, Gary, I'm going to hand it over to you and ask you, please, to introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Thank you. Unfortunately, most of the traffic's been your way in recent years. You're very modest and didn't say that. But anyhow, my name's Gary Milligan. I'm 62 years young. I live in Omagh, though originally I was from Monterey in County Down. I'm in Omagh 35 years now, but the Omagh people I'm still a blow in. I'm married with 3 children. all of the family at some stage in their lives have competed in motorsport. The kids did navigation rallies, and my wife used to co-drive for me in rallies, but we fell out too often, so that hasn't happened so much recently. For 41 years, I was an electrical engineer with NIE, and later Energia, who evolved out of NIE. I took early retirement a couple of years ago, mainly so that I could work at the car all day and keep ahead of Jerry McGarry, but that's another story. These days I compete mostly in sprints and hill climbs, but over the years I've competed in auto tests, navigation rallies, stage rallies, production car trials, all the sort of clubman level motorsport. I've had a go at them all. I'm also involved a lot in the organising side of the sport with the One Motor Club, the Ulster Rally, Wales Rally GB. Actually, I had an alternative introduction arranged, David, especially for Jerry. And it was going to go, my name's Gary Milligan, and I drive the fastest Mini in the West.
Your start didn't mean to go on.
I was afraid that might make him sick, and he would turn off, and he would miss all the other insults that are going to come his way over the next hour or so.
Oh dear. Is it going to be like this?
Well, it could be a bloodbath, David. It could be a bloodbath.
Oh, don't tell me that. I'll need to get a bell and ring every 3 minutes, will
it? Could be close.
Oh dear. Well, Gary, we'll start with an easy one here. Tell me this now, Gary. Tell us all, actually. What car do you drive, and tell us a wee bit about it.
Okay. I drive a Mini, David. I think most people know the Mini because I've driven the same one for the last 34 years. I've done over 200 events in the same car. The Mini that I had before that, I'd done about 125 events in it as well. So there's over 325 events between the two cars. Unfortunately, the previous one met a sorry end at Cottage Corner in Cairncastle. Come into the corner a wee bit too hard and hit the bank on the outside fairly heavily, and shortened the Mini by about 9 inches. Floor come up and round the pedals, and it was pushed so far back that the gear stick was actually lying horizontal to the floor. Took a wee while to get me out of the car because the doors wouldn't open. So eventually they got me out, and the doctor examined me and asked me, was everything okay? And I said, actually, you know, everything's blurred to me. I think I might have concussion or something. And he laughed. And the reason for my blurred vision then became apparent. I had on a tight fitting full face helmet, and it had retained the glasses frame, but the glass had popped out of the two glasses. So the glass lens were actually lying on the floor of the car, and that's why I couldn't see. So other than that, and sore ribs for a couple of weeks, I was in one piece, but unfortunately the wee car didn't survive so well.
Did you turn it into what was effectively known as a Mini ha-ha then?
It wasn't far away from that, David, no. The car actually stood up on its nose when it hit the bank, so I hit it at a fair wee rate. We actually, funny, I met the marshal who was there about 10 years later, and he was telling me that he had to jump out of the way, and he landed in a dunghill, or a dunghill as we would call it, and he smelled so bad that halfway through the afternoon he had to go home to change. Somebody had to replace him. But my brother Brian, he had a wee road going Mini 1000 at that time, and I needed a couple of events to finish the season to qualify for a class championship award. So Brian lent me the standard Mini 1000 road car, and then over the winter we transferred all the tuning parts from my car into his car, and him and I shared the car. We dual entered for a couple of years, and then Brian got a bit of sense about him and went off to pursue love instead of motorsport. So I bought him out of his share then. That's the same car that I have now, 34 years later.
Well, it's safe to say in 34 years, oh, I have a bit of interference here, whatever's going on. I would imagine in 34 years you found your way around the car then.
Not so badly, yeah, yeah. And there's not many nuts and bolts that I haven't had off in the car at some stage.
Tell us actually, you're mentioning numbers. Those of you that are eagle-eyed, in the picture I've been using on Instagram and Facebook, you're pointing at a 500 on the screen. I know you weren't too impressed when I raised this one on the day, but what's the crack with a 500 on the screen, Gary?
I suppose it was my own fault because I put the 500 on the screen, but I was hoping that any photographs were taken that day out of the 500 on the screen that I'd have a record of it. But from I started in motorsport, David, I used to have a wee red memo book. My dad used memo books for keeping his accounts. We owned a shop at Monterey, and I took one of these wee red memo books, and every event that I did, I put in the date and what I was driving and what the conditions were and where I had finished and so on. So right from 1977, I've had a record every event I've done. So Croft last year, I think it was, I got up to the 500th event. So that's why the 500 was on the screen, was to commemorate the 500th event that I'd done from the start of.
If I remember right, I am echoing here. I don't know what's going on tonight. There was an interview or an article done about you after the 500.
There was. That was your fault too.
You shouldn't have told me about that big day. I will speak very nicely to the author of that and see if he sent me a link to it. Chances are he's watching, and I will attempt to reshare that article after tonight. It may take me a couple of days to get my hands on it. But anybody that's watching tonight will be able to go onto the Sprint page and read the article again. Admittedly, you're now at what, about 520 events, give or take?
Something like that, David. Yep, I confess I haven't looked at it recently, but yeah, it's probably about 520 or so.
Let me know when we get to 600 and we'll stick a 6 on the screen. Well, Gary, what got you first involved in motorsport?
It was actually two-wheel sport that I got interested in, David, before four-wheel sport. My dad and my uncle were motorcycle road racing enthusiasts. So from I was 3 months old up until I was about 18, they took me to Dundroad every year to the Ulster Grand Prix. And that was the golden era motorcycle racing in Northern Ireland. The Ulster Grand Prix was part of the World Championship at that stage. And you had riders like Giacomo Agostini, Mike Halewood, Jarno Saranen, Kel Carruthers. All those big names all came to the Ulster Grand Prix. So my interest really started with bike racing rather than car racing. My dad, he had a shop at Monterey, and in fact, anybody who goes to Kirkeston that comes down the M1, a lot of people come off the M1 at Lisburn and travel down through Cumber, Carryduff. So if you come to Kirkeston that way, when you come off the M1, you actually pass over what was known as Milligan's Corner, where my dad had the shop. So he had the shop van was a wee Viva HA van, and I learned to drive in that when I was about 12 years old. And when I got a bit older, then I was allowed to deliver the groceries and deliver the meal out to the rural customers. So the wee van was very easy to tail slide, and it got dogs abuse out around the back roads. So that's kind of where the driving a fast car interest came from. 1977, I started in stock cars. It's probably known as banger racing now as opposed to stock cars, but there was a quarry near Newtownards, Ballyskay Quarry.
Yes.
Richard Young might know it because one of his colleagues in downtown used to be the commentator there, a guy called Hendy. And it used to get big crowds on a Saturday night, but my goodness, it was a rough affair. So it was. It certainly wasn't cultured racing. I started off with a Viva HB. That was a sort of Coke bottle shaped Viva. I think I bought it for 10 or 20 pounds, so it was a real quality machine. And I remember one race, I'd been involved in a shunt, and the bonnet got damaged, and the hinge ripped it out of the inside wing, so the bonnet was laying up about 30 degrees across my sight line. So during a lull in the race, I pulled into the side, climbed out onto the bonnet, jumped up and down on it half a dozen times, got back into the car and drove on. So you can see I was a real sensible guy in those days, and safety was paramount in all my considerations. But in those days, I'm not sure safety meant much to anybody, because the evening usually used to end with a figure eight race. So at the crossover point in the figure eight race, you had to brave it or bottle it. But I confess I was usually in the bottle it category. But it was great fun and a good introduction to motorsport. From that, then I remember going to a rally forum in Charleshurst and Bangor. Used to work in NIE in Bangor at that time, and Tony Pond was there. And Tony Pond said that the best place to start in motorsport was auto tests. That's where you learn basic car control and got comfortable with the car being sideways. So I worked with Lorraine Dixon at that time, who's Robert Dixon's wife. So I went into work all enthusiastic the next day and said to Lorraine, you know, Robert does these auto tests. Could I find out from you where one is, and I could go along and see how it works? So Lorraine came in the next day and said there's an auto test in Craigavon this Saturday, and Robert says he'll enter you for it. Meet him there at 12:30. So I tiddled up. I hadn't even handbraked the car at this stage, David, so I had absolutely no idea what was involved in an auto test. But met Robert half an hour before the event, and he showed me how to handbrake the car and how to nose throw the car, and that was it. I was in the auto test for the next 5 years. I had good fun at the auto test. In those days, you could. I think I won the Beginners Cup about 1980 or so, and I actually got to represent Northern Ireland at one stage in a inter-association auto test at Larne. And it was kind of memorable because the three Northern Ireland teams, the A, B, C team, all finished first, second, and third. So the sort of a clean sweep of the podium places. And the guy I was up against in the tandem tests those days, that time, was Russ Swift, who became famous for the Montego ad and for his stunt displays. So needless to say, Russ gave me a fair cuffing there. I don't think I won many of the tandem tests, but it was a good experience. In those days, even in a standard Mini 1000, you could get into the top 10 in a Northern Ireland Championship round. And I did win a couple of Clubman auto tests, and I could regularly get in the top 10, but I realised the skill level wasn't there, David. I was never going to be a great auto test driver. A guy called William Rutherford was a Northern Ireland champion at that time, and William, he went off to do the sprints. And it was the first I'd heard of sprints, and I thought that would be something good to try. So in 1982, I entered a couple of sprints at Kirkuson. And actually went a few nights ago there because this was coming up, and looked through my results folders and turned up the entry list from 1982. And would you believe there's still 3 other drivers on the go who were at those sprints in 1982?
Right.
Can you take a guess at who they might be?
I would have said Davy Francis and Tom Lawler would be 2.
You've got one of them anyway. Davy was there. Davy was actually entered in one of them. Davy was entered in 3 classes: a modified Mini, a modified Escort, and a road going Escort. The other 2 were Ray McClure. I had no idea Ray had been at it that long. Ray was out in an Escort, and Robert Majimsa. Needless to say, Robert was in a turbo single seater, Turbo Sam as he was called in those days.
Yes, I remember that.
So that got me started in the sprints, David. And as you know, whatever that is, 38 years later, I'm still at them. Haven't got any better. As I often say, the car gets a wee bit quicker every year, and the driver gets a wee bit slower every year, so the times stay about the same.
I'm sure they don't. I watch the times very closely, and they don't stay the same.
In between times, then I did I suppose I started off navigation rallies. I did some navigation rallies with Mandy, my wife, and then the kids, Andrew and Vicky, they started the Navi rallies when they were about 14. So it's some good fun with them. And Robert, then the youngest, probably remember him coming to events with me from he was in short trousers. So he actually, the age limit had been reduced by then, so he actually got started in the Navy rallies when he was only 12.
Yeah. Was it Robert, the one that I remember having your Mini on two wheels and a set of slicks?
Yes, he had it more often on two wheels and four wheels. And then he started him off in the sprints to learn it before he started the hill climbs. And then he got into the hill climbs, and much to the pleasure of Paddy Harvard and Gavin McLean, he beat me one day at Spelga. So that was the end. I'm sure in the car. Got him packed off to England to do a motorsport degree and out of the way. So he hasn't been allowed to drive the car since. Did a single venue rallying for a while as well, David, along with Mandy. And funny, Jerry made a comment last week about he thought the sprints and hills were a great place for stage rally drivers to learn their trade in. And I have to say I agree with him there, because when I did the single venue rallies, almost always I led the class for the early part of the day, because I was used to our events where you go there and you have to be sharp right from first practice or you're not going to be anywhere. So I could lead the first 2 or 3 stages while the rally guys were getting warmed up. And some days you were able to hold on to that lead, other days you weren't. But invariably the experience of competing in sprints and hills where you have to be sharp from the outset, that stood me in good stead when I was doing the rallies. So,
there was a famous bit of footage of you come up a couple or 3 years back. I think it was an RPM. It was the park rally in
Lark in the Park.
Lark in the Park. And it appeared on the TV of you skidding across the road and going down a bank. And I thought, oh no, don't tell me he's hit her. And I got no way of contacting that stage. I remember bumping into her phone and her email and Declan McAleer to find out were you all right. And he says, David, that's 20 years ago, that bit of footage. You in the same car, same colour.
Yeah, that was 1999, David, because 1999 I became the Chief Safety Officer in the Ulster Rally. And about 2 weeks before the Ulster Rally happened, I put the car in the river, and I was very new to it at that stage, and I was thinking, these guys will be wondering what sort of guy is this we've took on as Chief Safety Officer when he drops a car in the river. But that Mervyn Johnson's responsible for that, not me. The Lark in the Park was a great event for the Mini, David. That you couldn't have had a more perfect event. Narrow roads, trees. The first year we did it was 1998. And the event was in St Colum's Park and Derry, Londonderry. Kenny Colbert mentioned his interview about the great atmosphere there always was around Lurgan Park, and the Maiden City event was very similar. There was a great first lot of years. There was a great crowd there and a real sort of family atmosphere. So the first year was wet, and again, ideally suited to the Mini, and the fact that us guys who do the sprints and hills are used to being quick out of the box. So after the first couple of stages, we were leading the historics, and we're about 15th overall, which a Mini should never have been on a stage rally. The next year went along probably a bit overconfident after the first year's performance, and there was a character called Tommy Hughes years ago, was a stage commander, and Tommy certainly wasn't a quiet person. That's the most diplomatic way I can put it. So we were sitting on the start line for the fourth stage it would have been, and I'd taken a couple of tenths out of Mervyn on the first stage. He took 3 seconds out of me in the second stage. I pulled something like a second and a half back in the third stage. So it was sort of seesawing, a good wee battle between us. So Tommy came up on the start line, and he used to get the finger out and he'd wag the finger. You listen to me now. You listen to what I have to tell you. And he said, the downhill, the river's very slippy. He says, there's a lot of mud pulled out there. And he says, it's very slippy. You take it easy down there now. You listen to me, take it easy. So I was all right. I nodded my head to Tommy, and I thought to myself, Mervyn's a right sensible guy, he'll take it easy going down the hill. If I keep my foot in, I might get another second or two back on him. So it all seemed a good idea, sitting on the start line. But when we were sliding down the hill sideways and my wife was shouting at the top of her voice, slow, 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 it didn't really seem to have been that good an idea. So we got to the T right and the car just didn't turn at all. It just went straight across the road. Fairly low speed accident. Dropped the nose down into the river. And ever the gentleman, I climbed out of the car to assess what the damage was and left Mandy lying there. And she was on the water side of the car and thought she was going to drown. But it was a bit ironic because it was about 18 inches of water in the river.
Do you need to, I'm breaking up a bit, do you need to think back about that? Are you sure all she was saying to you was slow, slow, slow?
Oh, definitely, yeah. There is a subtext to this, David. The Craigandlet Hill Climb was the last round of the Hill Climb Championship that year.
Right.
There were three of us in contention for the class championship, myself and David Mowat, who used to drive a Sunbeam, and Ian Duff, who drove a Nova. So any of the three of us could have won the championship at the last round. And I know that sounds like total nonsense, but as we were going across the road and it was inevitable that we were going to go into the river, I was thinking, now what damage is this going to do? Am I going to be able to get it fixed for next Saturday? So anyhow, I got the car back to Oma, and a guy called Patsy McInnesby, a local body man, he got it straightened out for me for the following Saturday. We got the Craigandlet, but another bit of irony, neither David nor Ian turned up for the event that morning. So it was left me only had to drive up the hill to clinch the championship. And turned out that David had been sent to Belgium with his work, so he wasn't able to compete. And when Ian went to come out of his driveway that morning, there was a tree down across the driveway. And before you ask me, no, I don't own a chainsaw.
Brilliant. So you've had a fairly varied career, and it's true to say, from growing up outside Comber, as you were, and doing the deliveries in the van, you started out as the fastest delivery driver in the East, and now you're what some would argue is the fastest miniman in the West.
No doubt about it, David. What do you mean, John?
I've got to look at my screen here and see, I'm waiting on either Mervyn or Carl to comment on this here. We're going to wait and see what happens. I'm sure there's a few folk laughing at that. Oh dear. So, Gary, tell me this now. What was your first ever competition car? Well, I think you've sort of answered that.
Right. The Viva and the stock cars, David, and I had an Anglia in the stock cars as well. But then I started the auto test in a Datsun 100A. If you remember what that was, the first wee Datsun. They were sort of 1000cc, Fiesta-sized Datsun Cherry or Datsun 100A. I had one of those, and then yeah, to be competitive in the auto test, you really had to have a Mini. So I got a Mini 1000 to start off with, and that was probably about 1980 or so, and it's been Minis ever since. Not a lot of variety of cars. I suppose one fun car that we did have in amongst there was an old A40 Farina, 1959 A40 Farina. Robert and I did a lot of navigation rallies in that, and we actually won the Circuit of Ireland retro touring event, mid-2000s I think it was, and the A40 was fantastic fun. I mean, the suspension on it was 1950s suspension. You could get it sideways and around about at 20 mile an hour. It was a good fun car.
Am I not right in saying you have more than one Mini now? Have you not got a show Mini as well? Or is it a navigation Mini?
The man who owned it before me would have had it as a show Mini. he used to dry it off with a hairdryer. If he knew what the car was doing now, he would probably cringe. But yeah, I have another wee Cooper replica that I kind of use for retro type rallies, the like of Plum Tyndall's Deja Vu events and so on. I would do in the wee Cooper replica. So that's a nice wee car too. Yeah.
Carl has just commented, telling me he's the second fastest. I was expecting worse. You got away lightly there, guy. Well, tell me this: of all the events you've done, and you've done an awful lot of them, what is your favourite event you've ever done, and why?
Right. I suppose that this is a sprint program, David, and enjoy all the sprints. I mean,
Tell us about them all. Whatever your favourite event is, don't be biased to the sprints for me now.
well, sticking with the sprints for a minute. I mean, we've 3 different tracks at present, and I enjoy all of them. St Angelo obviously is my local event, and because it's local and the banter's good amongst the local drivers, I probably enjoy that event best on that day. Nuts Corner's probably the event best suited to the Mini. As you know, it was very seldom I could touch you at Kirkuson. You were sort of the Kirkuson expert. I might have been able to get you in the short circuit at times, but on the long circuit, you had the legs off me at Kirkuson. So Nuts Corner's the one best suited to the Mini's capabilities. But when you come out of Kirkuson down that pit straight and you take Adair's flat, and you're coming into Colonial's flat and fourths, and you're trying to leave your braking to the last possible minute, and you're trying to gather the car up to get around first, second Colonial. There's something special about that. That's my favourite bit of Kirkuson track. But my favourite event is probably Croft Pitlane. Again, it's just one of those events that always seem to happen on a sunny day. The event's well organised. It suits the Mini. I used to be in the rally car class in the hills years ago, and I remember one year in Eugene Donnelly's Manta days, Eugene was out in the rally car class, and I was leading the class for most of the day when it was wet. Obviously the Manta couldn't get its power down the same as the Mini could in the wet, so it would have been a nice scalp to have, but unfortunately the last run of the day it dried up and Eugene got me in the last run, so I can't claim to have beaten him, but it was nice to lead him for most of the day.
Just as you mentioned favourite events, this is something I know you've told me about before, but boys, I've got a laugh at this one here. Now, apart from biased as an Oma man and all, we all know you have a real love for Spa Mount Hill.
Yeah.
Now, tell us why you love Spa Mount Hill, like based on the story you always tell about the wet day with you walking back up the hill and the boys all in the cars.
Oh, yes, yeah. I wondered what you were getting at there for a minute. There are very few of us in the West who do the sprints and hills. The numbers increased over the last year or two. There's a lot more people involved in the West now than there were in the early days. In fact, I should pay a bit of tribute to Chris Caldwell, who, as you know, covers the sprints and hills and the Ulster Herald. And Chris has lifted the profile of sprint and hill climb a lot in this part of the world, and as a consequence of that, we have a lot more drivers now from this part of the world competing in speed events, but we have to get up at unsavoury hours to go to Kirkuson, and that's obviously why you're quicker than me at Kirkuson, because I have to get up 2.5 hours before you do and travel 100 miles to get there.
I have a long travel there too, Gary.
100 yards or so.
Not even. Shh.
So I always argue that we lose a bit of time because you're knackered by the time you get up at 4:15 or 4:30 in the morning and get the length of Kirkuson. But Spa Mount a couple of years ago, as you say, it was a wet event, and one guy put a Subaru into a tree, and it took a fair while to get it recovered, and the guy needed some attention and so on as well. So there was a long delay. And sort of being involved in the organisation of the thing, I had walked down the hill a bit to where the radios were to find out what was happening. And I was towards the end of the paddock. Most of the guys had been up in front of me. So I come back up to the front of the paddock, and almost without exception, all the guys from the east of the province were lying asleep in their car. And I wished that I had the phone with me to walk along and video them all asleep, because I reckon that was payback. They had to get up early to come to Spa Mount, so they had to face what those of us who live in the West have to face for every other event.
Well, you're mentioning events, another story springs to mind that I was told last week. I'll let you explain it more, about being overtaken by a van to go down the motorway outside Dungannon one evening.
Right. This is the man who purports to be fastest Mini in the West you're obviously talking about.
Absolutely no comment at all. Absolutely no comment at all. But he did tell me to ask you about that one.
Yes, I had pulled into the BP station at the end of the motorway for some fuel. We'll have fuel for both the car and for me. And when you come back out onto the dual carriageway there's a very short slipway. So I come back out onto the road, and frig the next minute, the side of the car was full of this red van. And I went, shit, did I not see him behind me? And he nearly run me off the road. And of course, I thought it was my fault. And then the van drew up level with me, and there was a green Mini in the back of it. And it was my friend from Irvinstown and Dermot in the passenger seat laughing and roaring. So then I think that Dermot was maybe phoned me on down the road. They had a keyhole about it, and I was telling them that I was still flipping shaking. They had scared the life out of me. So, typical jury.
But here, you know what he's like. Well, you're as bad. Anything for a bit of banter and crack. Well, here's one for you. Maybe one to keep out of earshot of the missus in case he's listening, Gary. But during lockdown, have you been doing any work at your car, and what have you done?
Right. I've probably done the most work to the car I've ever done over the winter.
Don't be telling me that.
The wee car had plate upon plate upon plate welded onto it over the last 34 years. And a couple of years ago, I went to Ken Irwin to get power steering fitted in the car. And Ken suggested a few other wee tweaks. As you know, Ken's kind of a legend in the auto testing world. He's multiple auto test championship wins, and he used to be part of the Top Gear live stunt team. And both him and Mervyn are an absolute wealth of experience on minis. And both of them, incidentally, had an 80th birthday within the last year. And they worked at all hours at minis, preparing them and working on them. So it'd be nice at that age if we're fit to do that. But Ken's a fanatic about weight reduction. So all these plates welded onto plates, and sensed him this wasn't right. So over the winter, we got a new floor put into the car, and went on a weight reduction program, because that's one area Jerry would have had an advantage in. You don't want to give him any advantage at all. Jerry's is a Mark 1 shell, and it had a thinner steel used on it, so Jerry would have had a bit of weight advantage. So hopefully that's cancelled out now. So put a lot of work into that, and I worked at the car solid every day from the start of January to about a week before the first sprint. Broke a drive shaft in the first sprint, and as you know, the second day was wet. So all that work and very little driving for it. So I'm really chomping at the bit to get out on the 1st of August. But, whilst I haven't done a lot of work to the car over the lockdown, because of all my other motorsport activities, organising roles, mostly the house has been neglected. So I've 25 years of DIY to catch up on. In fact, I was speaking to somebody the day. I was telling them that I had put a set of brackets on the spout and down pipes during the week, and that job has been on the back burner for 27 years since we moved into the house. So that's where the lockdown activities have gone there.
If you've been doing all this DIY, show us the hands. Have you still got all the fingers? And
they're still manicured.
Happy days. You're safe enough then. You know, no mistakes with hammers and screwdrivers and things like that. Then.
No, nothing like that.
Happy days. You mentioned something there actually, and it's a point probably a lot of people don't know about yourself. You talk about organisational rules. Give us a bit of an overview just of what Gary Milligan does for motorsport outside of driving, please. Because I find this amazing when you start talking about it. And I'm sure a lot of folk will not realise that.
If Jerry can turn off for a minute, David, I would tell you I'm a better organiser than ever was a driver, but don't tell him that. I moved to Omo with work in the mid-80s, and I joined Omo Motor Club Committee. Omo was full of characters in those days. The motor club meetings were crazy. The meeting would have ended, and then we went downstairs to the pub, and another meeting would have went on until maybe 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning when we were chucked out. I had come from North Down, and those certainly weren't the licensing hours I was used to in North Down. But my first event as clerk of the course was Moffat's Quarry in 1987. And well, mentioned Davy Francis, having done the sprint that I competed in 1982. David was kind of king of the quarry sprints in Oma. Used to run events at Moffat's and Haddon's. And I think Davy won a couple of them, maybe he had like double hat tricks 3 years in a row at each of the venues. But anyhow, 87 Moffat's was my first event as COC. And things were a lot different then. You would never get away with a carry-on that happened them days now. I mean, for example, Hugo McDade, some people would know you as a scrutineer. Hugo was head chef and occasional commentator. And at lunchtime, his camper van, all the senior officials used to sit down to lunch in Hugo's camper van for a prawn cocktail or prawn salad and black tar wine in those days. And then Hugo's commentary would get a bit more colourful in the afternoon when he'd been fortified with the black tar wine. The certificate that we had for timing equipment had liquid paper over the expiry date, retyped until the liquid paper was about 1/10 of an inch thick over the expiry date. I remember one year we had an RAC steward, as they were called in them days. That shows you how far back I'm going. And we didn't have a licensed timekeeper there. The guy who did that for us out of the club had to go away somewhere. So the RAC steward went to the start line and asked to see the chief timekeeper. And the guy said to him, "Oh, he's just gone up to the finish van. You need to go up there to get him." So this is the days before mobile phones. And it was a fair wee track up the quarry and a fairly steep track. So the steward made his way up to the top. And when he got up there, the guy said to him, "Oh, you've just missed him. He's gone back down to the start line again." So this nonsense went on the whole day until the steward gave up. So that's the sort of things we're at in 1987 that you could never do nowadays. From Moffat's I moved to the Bushwhacker. And if you live in Tyrone, forget about Monte Carlo Rally Finland, Wales Rally GB, whatever. None of those are important. The Bushwhacker's the big event of the year. And passions always ran high there. And it was a good event to get a grounding on and how to be a COC, because passions ran so high. You had half the field chasing you after the finish, complaining about something that had happened to them or wanting somebody else's car banished from the results or whatever. The finish used to be in the Castle Inn in Castlederg in those days, and it got so bad one year that Patsy Baxter out of our club had to organise a bouncer to get me from the course car at the finish into the results room, so I had to be accompanied by a bouncer. So
you're joking.
As I say, I think that's probably unique to Oma. It's just passions are so high when the Bushwhacker's on. I was saying earlier about Oma folk calling me a blow-in. Monterey's only a wee small village. Don't know what the population is nowadays. When I lived there, it was only about 500. But it's turned out some good rally drivers. I mean, Davy Greer would have been a neighbour of ours in Monterey, Raymond Mason, and Robin Phelps, who I think Robin was Northern Ireland champion at some stage. So Robin won the Bushwhacker one of the years that I was COC. So it was great to be able to be up on the stage and call up a Monterey man to have won the event. So I got a bit of pleasure that year. Seamus McCanny then, who was previously a clerk of the course in the Bushwhacker. Seamus was clerk of the course in the Ulster, and I used to work along with Seamus. And probably Seamus is the one organising wise that I learned most from. Him and Gordon Noble. Gordon clerked the Bushwhacker before I did. Gordon was a very cool head. So between Seamus and Gordon, those are probably the two people I learned the trade from. But Seamus got me involved with the Ulster and started off as safety officer. Eventually graduated the clerk of the course. I think it was 2004, 2006 I did that. That was the Philip White Tyre years when the rally was based in Armagh. And the Ulster was a big step up from the Bushwhacker. When you're organising the Bushwhacker, you think the workload's enormous and there couldn't be any other event does that. But Ulster Rally was just a totally different step up again. And really great team. I mean, even when I finished as clerk of the course in 06, I carried on as a deputy, and I'm still a deputy in the event nowadays. And I was part of the route selection team. We used to, Philip Murray, Bryce Sands, Michael Johnson and myself used to go out and pick the stages. Bryce, unfortunately, he passed away last year. And Bryce was one of those quiet, studious guys who works away in the background, never seeks any limelight. But, you know, while Philip, myself, Michael, and later Lewis Boyd were all clerks of the course of the Ulster, a lot of the workload and a lot of the success of the event was down to Bryce, who worked away in the background, never sought any limelight for it. In fact, Bryce lived at Ballygally at the bottom of Castle, so the guys who competed at Castle will know that Bryce was the Motorsport UK in Castle for many years. Really good guy. So then there were some tragic circumstances in 2014, and he ended up taking over the COC role of the event again then. And it was supposed to be 1 year, but the 1 year rolled into 3 years, so another 3 year stint from 14 to 16. In between times, Rally Ireland came along, and I was lucky just that I finished the Ulster in 06, and the first World Championship Rally Ireland was 07. And they needed somebody with a bit of experience of international rally rules. So I was sort of right person in the right place at the right time, and I got asked to do competitor relations officer on Rally Ireland. The 07 event was a fantastic event. You know, it's probably the most prestige event I've ever been involved in. And then the 09 event, Gordon Noble was clerk of the course. So I said to you, I joined him in 86. Gordon and I actually both joined on the same night in January 86. I didn't think I'd be working on a World Championship rally 20 years later. I'm sure Gordon didn't think he'd be clerk of the course 20 years later. So it was nice to work along with somebody who was a friend in the COC role. So I must have done something right on Rally Ireland, because the next thing was I got asked to do competitor relations officer on Wales Rally GB. And I've been doing that now probably about 10 years or so. Sprints and Hills, we don't really have competitor relations officers. I think Craig Antlet maybe run one, but we don't tend to have a lot of queries or clarifications that need to be sought. The CR... Sorry? Maybe you're a CRO and don't know you're one.
No, I wouldn't be polite enough for a CRO.
Well, you do have to be a bit of a diplomat, because when people come to you with problems, they're invariably jazzed up. You know, their problem's the biggest thing, or should be the biggest thing in your life that day. But so you have to listen to them and give them their place. But the CRO is supposed to be a mediator between the competitors and the organisers. I was saying earlier about needing a bouncer on the Bushwhacker to get from the course car to the results room. That was the days before CROs. The CRO is supposed to do away with that for the clerk of the course. So you need to know the regulations inside out, and you need to know the procedures, so that if somebody comes to ask you a question, you're in a position to tell them what they need to do. For me, Rally GB is a real kid in a sweet shop job. You know, I grew up, and I'm sure many of my age remember William Woolard doing the nightly reports in Top Gear on when Wales Rally GB was on. When you were watching that as a teenager, I never thought I'd have a chance to work in a senior official role in the event all those years later. But it's not all plain sailing, David. I mean, Rally GB, especially the hours on it are serious. The CRO has to be there for first car coming out of Park Fermi first thing in the morning, and he has to be there for the last car going into Park Fermi at night. So it's a long day. Since Rally GB moved up to North Wales, the route's a bit more compact, but when it was in South Wales and Cardiff, Typically, we'd have been getting up about 4:45, 4 o'clock in the morning, and you're lucky if you got 4 or 5 hours sleep in between legs. So it was tight going. As I said to you, it's not all joy and happiness when you have to deliver a decision to a competitor that isn't the decision that he wanted to get. And one other unpleasant job was delivering fines. When you're listening to Formula One, you hear about drivers being summoned to the stewards and so on. So rallying where the CRO goes and finds the driver and accompanies him to the stewards meeting. And then after the stewards have deliberated, you have to take him a bit of paper and hand it to him and explain the steward's decision and get him to sign that he's received it. The fines at WRC level are absolutely crazy. I'll give you a few examples, and I'm not betraying any confidence here because the steward's decisions are always published at the event. But Rally Ireland, there was a guy was caught for speeding on the main Enniskillen Belfast Road. He was a gravel crew driver. I'm not going to give you the guy's name, but he was a fairly civil guy. I think he might actually drive through the police roadblock as well as speeding. And but he's a very civil guy, and he talked his way out of it to a degree such that he didn't get any penalty points. He just got a £65 fine. But the police in those circumstances report any indiscretion to the organisers. So the organisers in turn are obliged to report it to the event stewards. So the stewards summoned the driver and the team manager, and they fined them €1,500 for the speeding offence, €2,500 for bringing the sport into disrepute, and give them a 5-minute time penalty. So there's an example of how severe WRC penalties are.
Was that the rally driver got the fine and the penalty because of what his gravel crew man did?
The team stroke competitor got 5-minute penalty and €3,500 of a fine. But they did actually get a slight reduction on the fine, because the final line of the steward's decision read, in view of the fact that the team has already paid £65 to PSNI, this will be deducted from the €3,500 owed.
We need to do that in the sprints. Well, I think that would be brilliant in the sprint.
No, as I say, David, the fines are crazy. I mean, forget to push the SOS or OK button on your dashboard if you stop on a stage. Don't hold me to these numbers, but it's about €250 if you're a privateer. I think it's about 800 or 1,000 euros if you're a WRC2 driver, and it's 2,500 euros if you're a manufacturer driver. So you can be fined 2,500 euros for forgetting to push a button.
You're joking, man.
Yeah, and it gets worse. I think the largest fine I've ever had to deliver was 30,000 euros.
What?
30,000 euros. That was for a post-event scrutineering issue. But one team got fined 30,000 euros.
You're joking, man.
So if you're going to compete at WRC level, make sure you understand the rules and regulations, or you're going to pay for it.
That is unreal. We could do that in the sprints. If you can have like time penalties, we get a great fun. I hear that it wouldn't work in our class, Gary. You'd be having penalties out all the time. Oh, here, I don't know if that would work or not.
No, well, as I say, I enjoy the CRO role, David. And you get a lot of satisfaction from it. I mean, the top team guys don't really need you. They all know their stuff. It tends to be more the guys down the field. And because I'm from home here, any of the NI or ROI crews that are competing in the event probably know me or know my name. So I kind of get dealing with all the guys from home. And the rules at WRC level are quite different to what they are in an ordinary rally. I mean, you get specific, if you retire from the event and want a super rally, you only have a specific time to fix your car, and it has to be timed into what they call a flexi service and timed out of it and so on again. So a lot of the rules are different than normal ones. And when the guys come up to you afterwards and thank you for your help, you get a bit of satisfaction from it.
Well, that's
Sorry?
No, go on ahead. I come back to you.
I was going to say, Jerry was saying last week about the satisfaction that he got from all the young drivers he had brought along. I'm not pretending that as a CRO, I had the same sort of input as Jerry had to the drivers, but a lot of the young navigators who, came to you for advice when they started competing at WRC level have all graduated now, to top teams and so on. And you feel a bit of pride or satisfaction that back at the start of their career, you were able to help them out, and now they've got into high-paying jobs as a consequence.
Well, one question I was going to ask you, you've sort of answered. I was going to ask you, do you get any sort of positive feedback? And thank you for that, but you've mentioned that. But another question, wearing your CRO hat, what's the penalty for pulling the wires off your brake pedal?
It should be very severe, David. I mean, I said to you about £30,000 for a post-event scrutineering issue there. I'm sure if that had been picked up at post-event scrutineering, it should be at least €30,000.
Those of you who watched last week will know what we're talking about, and we'll not say anymore. I'm sure if he's watching himself, he would have a quick chuckle too. But so that's a lot of a thing that a lot of people wouldn't know. And I actually only found out about your role there the year Ian, my wee brother, did the circuit. Remember, right. I was talking to you up in the Titanic quarter. What are you doing here, guy? All dressed up in a fancy coat and a briefcase and all, and you explained it there. So I've said it before and I've said it again. A lot of people in the paddock don't actually realise who they're racing with. A lot of folk will know Gary Milligan. That's the guy in the blue Mini 37. He's from down the company, but they don't realise that what they see you 9 or 10 or 12 Saturdays a year is just the tip of the iceberg. And it's fabulous. It's hard to believe that someone that's in amongst us, that's one of the lads, actually has such an important job on such a big scale.
I suppose again, David, a lot of it comes back to just being in the right place at the right time to get the right job. I'm not pretending I know any more than anybody else did. It was right place, right time. But I mean, yeah, I do CRO in the circuit. I do CRO in 5 Mile Town, the circuit, Sligo, Rally Isle of Man, and the Bushwhacker, of course. I also do a fair bit of the organising at Spamount Hill Climb. I'm chairman of my motor club. I was 10 years on Motorsport UK Stage Rallies Committee. And I've been an FIA International Steward in Donegal and Cork. So you can see why I say there's no free Saturdays to do any DIY work at the house.
Well, I think when you go through a resume like that there, you're entitled to not put any brackets on downspouts for a year or two. Oh, brilliant. Well, tell me this one here then. I don't know that when you ask people this year, you automatically assume you're going to mention something about driving. But with you and your background, it may not be about driving. So, Gary, what would be your most memorable moment in your motorsport career? Across all aspects of what you've done. And you've done a lot, I know, so that might be an awkward question to answer.
I suppose the ones you remember most, David, are the closest battles. Croft Hill Climb one year is the closest I've ever been involved in a battle. Gordon Fogarty, Chris Rogan, and myself all went into the last timed run with half a second between the three of us. 3 totally different cars, rear wheel drive, rear engine Fiat X19, front engine rear wheel drive Pinto, and a front engine front wheel drive Mini. So 3 totally different configurations and half a second between the 3 of us. When we got to the top of the hill, we ended up with Chris and I on exactly the same time, and Gordon 0.04 of a second behind us. So the 3 cars were covered by 0.04 of a second. We worked it out afterwards, the length of the course and the average speed. We worked out that was 18 inches. So there was 18 inches of road surface between the 3 cars. Chris and I had tied, and whilst I'm familiar with rally regulations, I wasn't familiar with what happened in a tie in a speed event. So it wasn't until we got back down to the bottom of the hill to the paddock and I got the blue book out that we realised that I'd won the event, because the tiebreak was who was quicker on the previous run, and I'd been quicker than Chris. So there's a lot of satisfaction in that event to to go into the last run with half a second between us and then win it on a tie break. That's the one that sticks out. There was another very similar one, a guy called Richard Wilson, who had a black Mini years ago, and Richard's Mini and my Mini were exactly the same spec, and we both had MED built engines, were virtually the same car. And Garen Point Hillclimb, Richard and I, on 5 runs, were never separated by more than 0.02 of a second. And on the penultimate timed run, Richard came to me with a handshaking, and we'd actually set an equal time. So with an equal time with 1 run to go. And Richard came to me and he says, "This is getting stupid. One of us is going to wreck the car here. We're even at the minute. Let's call a truce." And I went, "Oh, Richard, you can't do that. That's not the way motorsport works." And I thought I have the psychological advantage now. But the bugger, he got me by 0.02 of a second in the last run, so it backfired on him.
So it was a psychological move on his behalf.
So the close ones are the ones you remember. And I mean, you and I had some good class battles over the year, especially at Nuts Corner. But you bugger could always pull one out of the bag when I thought I had you. And then, yeah, obviously the battles with Jerry and Mervyn and Carl were great. That's just a pity that Mervyn's back has kind of put him out of action and he's not able to get out these days. But the banter and the crack that we had in those competitions was great too.
Yeah, I totally. I remember the best ice I had with you was Nuts Corner in the wet, and I've probably told this story before, but if any of you have ever watched Days of Thunder, Tom Cruise in the NASCAR, he has a pitman called Harry, and Harry sets a car up and does things right for him, and he talks to him the whole way through the race. When we go to a sprint, Ian and Steve and my 2 brothers do all my work. They have their car that's perfect. And Paul Taggart goes and Paul keeps me right on the day. We went out and I was about 3rd and I needed points and I was behind Gary here. And Paul come up to me and said, "I've done your tyres. They're perfect." He says, "Go for it." And I think it was Steve and Ian was there and they were shaking their heads, yes, yes, yes. So I believed them and when I remember you followed me and on the way in you were going into the kink on the right hander in the first lap and I was coming into the horseshoe and on the second lap I was in the middle of the horseshoe or something, or I was something about the horseshoe and where you were when you turned in, and I pipped you by, as you say, like a 10th or 2/10 or something. And you come down, "Oh, congratulations, you deserved it." And I says, "It's all down to Tiger." He says to Paul, "What'd you do, Paul?" Paul says, "Nothing," turned and walked off because he hadn't touched the tyres at all.
Yeah, yeah. A lot. I mean, a lot of the whole things, the psychology of it.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to be confident in what you're doing. If you're not confident you're capable of doing it, you're never going to do it.
Yeah. And like, as you say, we've had some hellish good battles. We've had some great fun going down the years.
Yeah, we have.
Well, tell me this one now, Gary. Who would be your motorsport idol?
Jerry McGarty. Not. You were expecting me to say Jerry McGarty, weren't you?
No, I was actually waiting to see who it was. I wasn't sure would it be a rally man or who it would be.
I suppose we all my involvement were rallying, David. I suppose it should be a rally driver, but it's actually a race driver. A guy called Gilles Villeneuve, who was a Formula One driver in the late 70s, early 80s. He's really the only idol I ever had. I've admired other people, but kind of Gilles was my Formula One idol. I mean, he could do things with a Formula One car I've never seen anybody be able to do since. To give you an example, Watkins Glen is where the American Grand Prix used to be held. And in 1979, practice was wet. And Villeneuve was 11 seconds a lap faster than anybody else in the wet practice. 11 seconds.
That's impressive.
Today's Formula One world, like it's just otherworldly. Him and Didier Pironi used to live in Monaco, and that obviously a Ferrari road car. Each testing was in Maranello or Fioriano at the Ferrari's test track. So to relieve the boredom of the long journey, they used to see who could keep their foot to the floor for the longest through the traffic on the journey to Fioriano. So he was never going to live a long life. And unfortunately, he was killed in practice at the Belgian Grand Prix in '82. And a kind of bit of Formula One died for me that day. I watch it, but I never really was the same after that. In fact, when I started in the sprints in '82, David, I had my helmet painted in Villeneuve's colours.
Right.
One of the lockdown activities I had was renting out the roof space of the garage where I hadn't been for about 25 years. And I found Villeneuve's replica helmet up on the roof space. So I got it a bit of a clean up and a few stickers stuck in it there. So it's back in action again.
Happy days.
The answer to that one's a racing driver, she's Villeneuve.
Good. Another thing here, somebody raised this during the week with me to ask you about was you obviously you do all the World Rally stuff and you're a massive fan of the World Rallies now. But I'm told you're not a good man to organise to go and see a World Rally with.
Right. I'll be checking with you later who it was told you that.
I've told you I had an unlucky, a very disappointing trip to a World Rally there last year, one you were really looking forward to. I actually felt sorry for you when I heard this, I must admit, because I remember how excited you were about going.
We'd always planned to go to Australia, David. Mandy and I like our holidays, which makes coronavirus even worse. We spent a lot of holidays in America, but we could never go to Australia. Mandy was a teacher, and the Australian summers, obviously, when the schools were on the go. So we always said when she retired, we'd plan a holiday to Australia. So, of course, having consulted the WRC calendar, I happened to notice that Rally Australia fell in November, and I said to Mandy, December's probably far too hot to go to Australia. Would be better going in November. And then when we had it booked, I said to her, "Oh, look, Rally Australia has on when we're there. We could maybe go to that when we're there." So went to all that trouble and got out to Australia, and of course the bushfires in New South Wales this year meant that the event didn't happen. So it was disappointing from that point of view. But I mean, there's no way the event could have happened. We were lucky. I phoned the hotel in Coffs Harbour, and they were very understanding because of the circumstances. And I said, "Look, we're here on holidays, and if I can come to the hotel later in the holiday when things have died down a bit, will you give me the rooms? Take them off you because you were so understanding." So we did that. But from where we left Sydney, where we seen the first fire, to the last fire up above Coffs Harbour was 285 miles. So there were 285 miles of burning trees between Sydney and Coffs Harbour. Absolutely crazy.
I've been in Coffs Harbour. We were in Coffs Harbour when we were across our last. I hope I'm near sure. I'm almost 99.99999% positive. We were in Coffs Harbour, and it's a place I'm thinking of. It is beautiful.
Yeah, it was a nice place. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you go up the Sunshine Coast, the Gold Coast, and all when you were there too, where they have the?
Yeah, we went up to Brisbane, David, and then we flew up to the Barrier Reef from Brisbane. So yeah, it didn't spoil our holiday. It restricted it buggered the rally, and it restricted the coast trip up north of Sydney. But when we got down to Melbourne and so on, there was no fires or anything down there, so we still had a good holiday.
Do you plan all your holidays around motorsport? Because you went to, was it Vegas, and sent me pictures of you in a NASCAR?
You stole my thunder now for one of your later questions, but
right,
yeah.
Well, wasn't there then?
No, go ahead. You had a question saying where would something like, what would be your dream place to drive a car, and I was going to tell you about Daytona. Yeah, funny enough, there always seems to be a race car experience or a driving track or something falls somewhere into the holiday. And even when we're in Australia, the rally got buggered up, but still managed to get the Phillip Island circuit for a tourette. So you always have to maneuver a bit of motorsport somewhere into the holiday. But, yep, go into the NASCAR story. A guy called Eric O'Neill out of North Armagh Club had told me that he had went to NASCAR school in America, and it wasn't your usual racing school experience. They let you go flat out in the thing from the word go. So it was Richard Petty runs these schools. There's various ovals in America he does it at. And I have been, as I say, holiday planning. I've been on a lot of racing schools and so on. In fact, it was at the very first day of Richard Peacock's racing school at Curtiston, where
That was a while
a
ago.
young guy called Eddie Irvine was there. Uh, I
Eddie
don't know.
Irvine?
Don't know whatever became of him. I don't think he was as successful as I was, but
I
anyhow,
think I've heard of him.
I drove a tank as well. I go in a tank one day, but
Now, you can't call a Mark II Escort a tank. That's not popular.
I think you've done yourself enough harm with Mark II Escorts. You'd be better making no more remarks about
I called the Mark I a puddle hopper and nearly I got dogs abuse for weeks. It was nearly on a wanted list.
No, the Daytona experience was something else, David. The banking at Daytona is 30 degrees, but when you're on it, it feels like 60 degrees. And the top of the banking is actually the height of a 3-story building. It really messes with your mind. I mean, you can't stand on the bank, and if you walk up it, you couldn't stand at the top of it. You'd physically fall down it. It's just crazy what it does to your mind. And a NASCAR vehicle is a big unwieldy vehicle. You can guess there's a fair difference between a 120 horsepower Mini and a 650 horsepower NASCAR. You get about 8 laps, but you kind of lose 1 or 2 laps as a warm-up, and you lose a rundown lap at the end. So you really only have about 5 or 6 laps in between to do what you want to do. And at the driver's briefing, the guy tells you don't lift off on the banking. You know, that's dangerous. The car will lose its centrifugal force. It's hard to get your head round. We're used to lifting or braking for corners. It's hard to get your head round keeping your foot in because the centrifugal force is going to keep you safe. So there's a lot of...
You keep your foot flat around the banking.
It's dangerous to lift off on the corners, on the bank corners. You have to keep your foot in, or you'll come to harm. So there are a lot of things to remember. So I eventually wound myself up on the last lap. I kind of thought, I'm probably never going to get doing this again. You know, I have to push the limit. So I got a 145 mile an hour lap on the last lap. And that would have put me in pole position for the Daytona 500 in 1959. I mean, I got a whole new respect for NASCAR drivers. I mean, I was saying I did 145. Their lap times are 200 mile an hour. 200 mile an hour. I mean, and I was checking it out still, despite what I've been told about not lifting off and so on. It's hard to tell your brain not to do it. You know, if you put an Adrian Pollock, a Stephen Galt, a Jared O'Connell into the car, they'll probably go 20 mile an hour faster than I did. But it scared the life out of me. I've never been frightened driving a race car before, but I got out of the NASCAR. My hands were shaking. There was an appraisal form to fill out. You couldn't read the writing in the appraisal form. I couldn't sign my signature because my hand was still shaking that badly from the adrenaline of the NASCAR. So when you asked me the dream drive question, that's what I was going to say. I wanted to go back to Daytona. And,
Gary, you're going to have to bear with me. This flaming iPad has crashed. That's twice. Right, hold on. Ditch that. I don't know what's going on with the flaming thing. Hold on. That's not going to work. There's me thinking using that was a great thing. It's twice it's done that on me. We'll not be using it again. We will go to the backup when I can find it. Now I'm not flustered. I'm not finding what I'm looking for. I want the Sprint Championship. I want to publish. I want to go live. Start a video. We're live again. I don't know what's happened. The live feed has died on the Facebook again. It's the famous iPad has died again. I don't know what's wrong. I think we'll retire it. It's only done 2 events. It's retired already. So we're going to recommence now with Gary on this one. I apologise in advance. The sound quality is not going to be as good. The picture's not going to be as good because I'm not going to be able to set it up the way I had the iPad set up, tuned in, lined up. So bear with me a second or two. It won't be as good. I can apologise. But the full version will be available on the Championship YouTube page. We'll link the full version onto the Facebook page as well, the recorded version. So sorry for those that have been watching live and have been cut off. I don't know what I'm going to do. Just I don't know. I have to get another iPad or something. But we're going to recommence this in a wee second. Bear with me. I turn this around. Plug the microphone back in again. This is embarrassing to say the least. Just bear with me, please. That's why you always have a spare. Now, how do I reverse the camera in this gizmo? That one there. Right. Gary, sorry about that. I'm sure you heard me talking. I don't know what's happened. That's my new iPad, believe it or not, and that's twice it's done that. So I'll not be using it again. So sorry, I interrupted you there. You were telling me.
As Betsy then, David.
Sorry.
Not as reliable as Betsy then.
No, and that doesn't get any abuse either. That's the thing I don't understand. I hardly use it. I use the older one because I prefer it. Anyway, where were we when I cut you off? We were talking about you driving a NASCAR, weren't we?
Yes, yeah. So I suppose I'm not sure where it cut off at, David, but your question about where was your dream venue to drive? I'd love to go back to Daytona again and see if I could break the 150. So that's a kind of wee target that I'm going for. So hopefully we'll get back there, but might be a while the way travel arrangements are at the minute. So might be too old for it by then.
Oh, never be saying that.
Look what's happened to Jerry with age and the speed he goes at.
Well, yeah, I'm saying nothing. I'm not going to accuse the ageism. Okay. Did I then sort of jump the gun there when I asked you if you could drive any car anywhere, what would it be and where?
Yeah, that's really the Daytona one, David, that I was planning as my answer for that one. Yeah.
Okay. Nothing like being put on the spot. What else would you like to drive and where then?
Pikes Peak, David. This was another holiday track, funny enough. We went to Pikes Peak, not when the event was on, but a fortnight after Sebastian Loeb set his new record and the Peugeot. And my goodness, we think Kerncastle's bad. You want to see Pikes Peak. 12-mile run. The drops off the side of it are just incredible. Not going to name the guy, but I know of one Northern Ireland competitor who went to Pikes Peak and didn't get the whole way up the hill. He did a U-turn because he thought this is too dangerous. It's an amazing place, and how the guys drove that when it was a gravel event and did the speeds they would do, it's just incredible. We stopped for a cup of coffee on the hill, and we met up with a forestry guy, sat down beside us because there was a shortage of seats or tables. And I said to him, I've competed in hill climbs myself, and was he involved in it? He started telling us a few stories, but you being a rescue man, you'll appreciate this one. I asked him what happened when somebody went off the road. The hill was 12 miles long. Did they not have a lot of stoppages and so on as a consequence? And he says, look, when somebody goes off the road here, we don't bother stopping the event. We'll launch the helicopter, and the helicopter goes to look for them.
You're joking me.
Because he says, generally, they're so far off the road, it's going to need a helicopter to find them.
Well, see if Motorsport UK starts saying about putting rescue crews in a helicopter, I ain't doing it. I've done my bit in helicopters. I ain't doing it again. We got one in Goodwood, and whilst I enjoyed it, it scared the life out of me. So don't be introducing that for the bushwhacker helicopters or anything. I'll not be doing it.
Incidentally, the guy told us as well the hire fees for Pikes Peak because it's owned by the forester. I can't remember whether it was $30,000 a day or whether it was $10,000 a day, $30,000 total. But either way, the hire fees on it were absolutely crazy.
Jeez.
Nearly as bad as the WRC fines.
Indeed. Well, you would like to drive a car up Pikes Peak. What car would you like to drive up it?
I'd actually, again, I'm jumping question to question on you, but you had a question about who you would like to drive you. So I'm going to mix those two together. Well, those of us who watched the Ulster Rally in 1984, when Walter Roll debuted the short quattro, were just astounded at the speed of the thing. We'd never seen anything go that hard before. Off the start line, it was just like a bullet. People still talk about it now, 35 years later. I mentioned Beatty Crawford, Plum Tyndall's Deja Vu events. They ran one a few years ago with Walter Roll at it to commemorate the event. I think he was something like 25 seconds ahead after 2 stages. And he won the event by 15 minutes. And you mentioned in one of your earlier interviews with some of the guys about the footage of him in Rally Portugal, where the feet were dancing on the pedals.
Yeah.
So Roll won Pikes Peak in the Quattro and the gravel days. So that's one of my choices for who I would like to be driven by and where. I'd love a run up Pikes Peak with Walter Roll and a short Quattro.
You're a braver man than me.
When you had that question, I couldn't split it. I have another one as well, David. I know I shouldn't have two, but sure.
Go for it. Tell us. It's all for the crack.
A few of us went to Rally Finland a couple of years ago, and I could never get to Rally Finland when I was so heavily involved with the Ulster, because the two events were always close together. But I'd stepped back from the Ulster a wee bit after 2016. And self, Robert, my son, Ian Duff, and Alan Roddick, we all went over to Rally Finland. So I was standing out at the first stage, and I got a text from Gordon Noble. And Gordon said, "Have you seen a car yet?" And I said, "No, we're just waiting on the stage starts in 5 minutes or whatever." And he texted back and he says, "If you don't issue an expletive and step back a yard when the first car passes you, there's something wrong with you." And my goodness, was he right. The speed of the cars and gravel in Finland has to be seen to be believed. And if you haven't been there, put it on your bucket list. It's a great event to watch. I suppose my favourite of the current WRC drivers is probably Craig Breen. I was fortunate enough to be on Rally GB in 2011 when Craig and Gareth Roberts had a chance of winning the WRC Academy. But it was a big ask. I mean, they had to win the Academy on Wales Rally GB, and in those days you got a point for fastest stage. And I think they had to be fastest on all but 2 of the stages to win the Academy. I met the guys at signing on, and I said to Craig, "What do you think your chances are?" And most drivers would probably have covered themselves and said, we'll give it a good bash here, but being realistic, it's a big ask, but we'll go for it. They would have covered themselves. But Craig, absolutely full of confidence, no doubt in his mind that it was doable and he was going to do it. And he impressed me. He was so confident that he went into the event and all was going swimmingly, fastest in every stage until Saturday afternoon. And Molly Taylor got a fastest stage time. And Molly hadn't really featured amongst the top crews. So Gareth, Craig's co-driver, rang me and said, would I query the stage time for him? It looked a bit dubious. So went to the results guys and know all the paperwork and so on, checked out as it should have done, and the stage time was correct. And the theory was that it was a foggy day, and the theory was that maybe Molly got an opening in the fog on the stage that the other guys didn't get, the earlier runners. So I phoned Gareth back and explained all this to them. There was a €500,000 prize fund for the WRC Academy. So you can imagine how important that stage time was. Anybody else would have jumped up and down and wanted the stage times cancelled and created a whole furore. 2 guys, Gareth thanked me for checking it out for him, and they just got on with the event and won it. And again, that really impressed me, that with that pressure on them, they could stay so cool. Craig really enjoys the WRC. I mean, you can see every time he's interviewed, he's just living the life. And the roads that are used for stages in Finland are public roads. They're not like our forest roads that they're closed off. So if you go over before the rally, you can actually drive on Empoya and so on in your road car. So we drove over on Empoya, albeit at about 30 miles an hour in a 4-wheel Jeep. But even at that speed, the stage was just incredible. Ruamaki, the sort of iconic one with all the jumps at the finish, with the sweep over the jumps. So that would be my second choice of dream passenger ride. A ride with Craig Breen over Ballinpoya or Ruamaki.
Yeah. This might sound a bit unusual to you, but you're talking about the gravel there. I'm sure everybody is laughing or be wondering, what on earth has Davy been drinking, right? But the gravel in Finland, right? When you go to the bushwhack or you go to any of our roads here, it's stone, it's big lumps of stone, it's gravel. Is the gravel in Finland the same as what we have? Or is it a completely different ballgame? Because when you watch it on the TV and then watch Rally GB, they don't look like it's the same sort of stuff.
No, it's very fine gravel in Finland, David. And probably a lot of the reason for that is what I was saying. They're public roads in Finland, so ordinary road cars are travelling on those every day of the week, where our gravel events tend to be forests that are closed to the public as far as road traffic goes. So I would say that's the difference in it.
So their stages then are bound to be as smooth, I was going to say as smooth as a road. They're bound to be really, really smooth then.
Really, really smooth they are, yeah. Or don't get me wrong, they're still not tar, but they're a lot better road surface than our forests would be.
That's just you know what I'm like, I ask these random things, and that's one of those random questions come into my head. Well, reading down through the questions, Gary, you'll be glad to know that you've got the 10 out of 11 of what I've written. Although in fairness, I would say it's more like 30 out of 31, because I feel like I've been grilling you all night. But this is a very important question now, and this one needs a lot of thinking. I'm just going to give a wee bit of history to it here. This next question, the answer to this next, no, I'll ask it now, and when you answer it now, I'll say what I was going to say. Right, Gary, very important now. I know there's been a lot of thinking on this. Who would you like to see interviewed in this quiz?
Right. You told me this one was coming up, David, so I put a bit of thought into it. I talked earlier about the 3 drivers that had been at the first sprint that I was at in 1982. A couple of years ago at North Ulster has traditionally been the first round of the championship as long as I've been doing sprints. I turned up an old entry list and took it to Mervyn and Richard and Robert and so on in the North Ulster Club, and it was that opening event of the season 30 years ago, and the entry list for the same event 30 years later, and there were 3 people on it were the same 30 years apart, and that was John Donnelly, Alan Roddy, and myself. So you've already interviewed John and you've interviewed me, so I'd like to nominate Alan. Alan's been around a very long time. He's drove a variety of cars, a lot of good stories. I think Alan would be a good candidate for you.
Well, I'm glad to hear you mention him, because when we first, I didn't, when Joanne and Davy Gibson first stripped this interview series up and talked it through with me, and I started thinking about it. Alan Roddy was one of those guys who was on my initial sort of list of 10 or 15 drivers, along with yourself and pretty much everybody we've done so far, to be honest. And I'm not bullshitting when I say that. And Alan would have been one of the ones that I would like to get talking to. So Alan is one that I will speak to at the next opportunity. Now, when we mention the next opportunity, I'm going to jump the gun a bit. I'm going to flip backwards and forwards here between planned and not planned. Next week's interview, I'm going to announce this very early. Next week's interview is going to be different, and it's going to be a special one. Next week's interview is going to be Friday night at 8 o'clock again. Hopefully, we'll have a different means of portraying this. I'll go out a bit better than that bloody iPad there. Because next week's interview is going to be our event sponsor, Bill Adair. Now, I know Bill's not a driver nowadays, but Gary, you and a lot of other boys can vouch for this. Bill has probably done more in motorsport as a driver than a lot of us in the paddock that are driving at the minute, and people don't realise that. So not only has he a fabulous and very good history in motorsport as a driver and competitor, but he's also our championship sponsor and has been sponsoring us for more years than he can work out himself. It's well up into the 20s. So next week is going to be Adair. It's also going to be the last one for a few weeks because of the upcoming 12th holidays, because of the recommencement of the championship. I'm going to put a wee delay on them. I'm going to put them on pause. I'm not stopping them. I'm just having a break. We will look about recommencing them in the gap between the Kirkeston sprint and the September sprint. I just don't want to run them every week and bore everybody of them. I also don't want to run out of people to interview because it's a long winter. So I'm going to do Adair next week. I'm going to pause it for 2, 3, 4 weeks. We'll get the first sprint over. We'll reassess where we're at. We'll do a couple before September. Then we'll feed them in bits and pieces, not as regularly. And then come the winter, we'll recommence them again as far as possible. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. So that gives me a good chance to bend Alan Roddy's ear at the next sprint in August and get him lined up to do it and see if he will do it. Anybody else who has any suggestions for people they should do, please come and speak to me, suggest them. There are a couple of other names I've mentioned, some that Gary and I have discussed as well. So we will be looking, there will be a temporary cessation, but it will come back again. As I say, we're not stopping them, we're just having a break, bit of a holiday during the summer, and then we'll start these again mid-August, September, and we'll run them right through the winter again. So that's just where we were. I was going to say 2 things, Gary, there. Did I say them both? Suppose you don't know what I was going to say. My head's gone blank now, haven't you?
I don't.
Yes, who you were going to do and what I was going to say, and I jumped backwards and forwards. Yes, I have covered what I was going to say, so sorry.
I was going to, if you'll indulge me for a minute, there are two things. First one is to thank yourself. I know that a lot of the other guys you've interviewed already have already done this, and I'm just echoing what they've said. The work and commitment you put into your coordinator role is huge, and I really don't know how you can concentrate on driving an event when you're at it and still collect all the information you do to produce the reports on a Sunday night. So just to add my voice to the other people, I mean, the work that you put into the role is very much appreciated by us as competitors. And the other one, this is kind of a personal one for Jerry, and you know, we'll laugh and joke and carry on, but I have to admire Jerry for carrying on, competing through his illness, and you know, staying as competitive as he has through his illness. And he oozes confidence, but sometimes you can have too much confidence, and you can say that you're going to do something if you don't win an event, or if somebody else beats you in an event. I think you know the story behind this, David. I'm not embarrassed to going into the full details, but at St Angelo 18 months ago, several of us were expecting a barbecue that we had brought our sausages and bacon and steaks along for, and the barbecue never happened. And we're 18 months later, and still there's no barbecue happened. So when you phoned me today, I was out at the shop buying a packet of matches. So there seems to be a shortage of matches about Irvin's time. So look, there's the matches going into the envelope. Davey, do you know his address off the top of your head?
I was going to say address it, Gary, to the fastest mini in the West.
No, that's no good, David. It wouldn't go to him then.
That's what I was afraid of. Would it go to Tullyholman, or would it go to Vera? Where would it go? You'd have to get that address. Would the postman know who the fastest mini in the West is? I don't think we really know.
No, and that's actually one thing that's good about the competition. You know, any of the 3 of us can win in a day, and you're driving down the motorway on your way to the event, and you don't know whether you're going to be first or last that day, and that's what's so good about it. None of us ever get a run of more than 2 or 3 events in a row. You know, if you get 3 events in a row, that's you really top of the 3. We all get a turn at it, and that's what makes the competition so good.
And then it doesn't help when one of the fastest minis in the West tries to eliminate the other one on the way into Dungannon.
Yes, that's right. At least it was on the way home.
Well,
whether I beat him that day or not, but I'm sure I did.
Well, to go back to what you said, there, Guy, about the work that's done, I can't take all the credit. It's a team effort. There are, as you know yourself, there are a team of other competitors in the background who formed a bit of a championship committee, so to speak, if that's the right terminology for it. They all give great input, they all give great advice, they all have their strengths in various places. God love her, poor Catherine, when it comes to the awards night. It's Catherine Donnelly, that produces the stuff that goes on the screen. She described it to me once as, I prepare the PowerPoint stuff and send it to Catherine, and Catherine fixes it. She described it to me the first year as it looked as if I picked the picture up and threw it at a wall. And I just stick the picture on the screen and she has to sort it all out. So it's the background committee. But on the events, as you say, driving on the events, Stephen Morrissey comes without fail, even Deanna Skillop. And Stephen Morrissey does all the sticker checks and all for me and all the championship sticks. That in itself takes Stephen 3 hours. And if it wasn't for Stephen, that couldn't be done. I couldn't compete. Stephen Galt, God love him, I think he has a separate ringing tone for me. I phone him that much. It's bound to be like the Death March or something. And he hears it ringing. Oh no, not David Evans again. Stephen Galt is like my right hand man. He does so much in the background. People just don't realise. I am literally, some might say the spokesman, some might say the mouthpiece, but I'm just the figurehead of the group. It's a group effort. And then Joanne here at home, she helps me so much in the background too. She proofreads reports and helps me with times and we're writing them, helps calculate distances between people, and it's just a team effort. I'm only the one to take the figurehead. It's not all down to me, it's a team effort. But thank you, I appreciate the praise. I really enjoy doing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary, now, it's a time to end it. I could sit and yarn away to you all day, because to me it's just like talking to one of my mates. It's been mighty crack. Fiercest rival as well, by the way, but one of my mates. I just want to thank you both from myself and on behalf of everybody for agreeing to take part in this tonight. It's been absolutely fabulous. I've really enjoyed myself, and I hope you've enjoyed yourself too.
Yeah, oh, very much so. Yeah, it's good. It's good. The
crack has been brilliant. The banter's been mighty. It'll be interesting to see how long it takes for either one of us to get a phone call from a certain you-know-who. But again, I want to apologise to everybody about it going down halfway through. The full interview will be available either later on tonight or tomorrow morning via YouTube. Again, it's Stephen Morrissey does that bit for me. I send him an email and he does the rest of it. I'm not technologically minded. So the full one about apologies, folks. I don't know what happened. I don't know. I can just apologise. But thank you, Guy, for agreeing to be such a fabulous interviewee. It's been brilliant. Thanks from behalf of myself and from all the competitors for agreeing to do this. Thank you so much. As I say, next week will be Adair, 8 o'clock on Friday night. That will be the last one for 3 or 4 weeks. If I don't see you before it, everybody, I'll see you in Kirkeston on the 1st of August. Watch this space. I need to do some competitor bulletins and I need to do some information bulletins by email to all the championship regular registered competitors. So watch your inboxes and watch the ANICC website in the upcoming days for those. Apart from that, all I want to say is thank you very much, Gary, again. Thank you very much for those that watched, especially those that watched it twice. And everybody, Gary, hold on a wee second. Everybody else, good evening. Thank you very much for watching and we'll see you soon. Gary, if you just bear with me, please, I will figure out how to post this. And that is share. That should be a way to Facebook. I will cancel and save this recording. If I get this wrong, we're completely screwed. Recording is stop.